You know, Lance, the way this works, it's a bit of a copycat league. So Bryce Young is kind of small and thin, and people now look at him and C.J. Stroud and go, well, the bigger, stronger quarterback is better. And so then I see J.J. McCarthy, who is 6'3", 200 pounds, and I think my takeaway is he's kind of thin. It doesn't appear to be, according to like some of the mock drafts I'm seeing, affecting him. But it is a concern for me. I did a list the other day. I went to the smaller quarterbacks last 7 or 8 drafts, or thin quarterbacks, Bryce Young, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel. A lot of them has not panned out. So is J.J. McCarthy's sort of slender, 200-pound, 6'3" body, is that a legitimate concern? Are you hearing that?
I think it's a legitimate concern as it pertains to anything that could put him in harm's way. I mean, you know, what was interesting is we had a draft last year with Tank Dell getting drafted in the 3rd round at 163 pounds. Everyone around football knew Bryce Young was not 204 pounds like he tested at the combine. That was all additional weight. At his pro day, he wouldn't weigh again. So he's a sub 200-pound quarterback. But we're dealing now, Colin, with a lot of outliers. It's really changing. A lot of these cornerbacks in this year's class and I'm talking about talented guys, are in the low 170s up to the low 180s, and that used to be really unheard of. So Xavier Worthy's going to probably check in the 160s as well. So we're dealing with a lot of outliers, and I think teams are more willing to work with a 200-pound quarterback, a 205-pound quarterback, because the need for quarterback and the need for explosive playmakers outweighs currently, no pun intended, the weight. But it's other positions, you know, they won't relent with those size standards. But now with offensive playmakers, it looks like, at least for now, they're willing to relent a little bit and see what happens.
So the Caleb Williams, there has been people that I respect have come out and said, and I heard this a little bit with Mahomes early, he leans into the spectacular. He doesn't take the hitch, the hot pattern, the easy stuff. Now, I think we'd both agree Mahomes has gotten great at that. He's really reduced his air yards. I mean, he'll take anything underneath, and a lot of it was taken away by different coverages. But is that a legitimate – I feel like it's a legitimate concern is that – and now, he didn't play with many great players at SC. Jordan Addison, and that's about it. Does he, in your opinion, can he be a little too concerned with great and not as concerned about hit the easy stuff?
I think you nailed it. I think that's 100% his issue, and it showed up last year too. I was expecting something different, and it's kind of what he's developed into at USC. I think once you get good at extending plays and making plays, and make no mistake about it, he looks to beat you with his arm when he exits a pocket. But the thing that really bothered me a lot this year was that the hero ball just happened way too often. I mean, he's pulling it off schedule when he didn't need to, not throwing the 6-yarder and letting the, on 3rd and 8, not throwing a 6-yard shallow crosser and letting the wide receiver try to get it. And Colin, I talked to a team about that, and I said, how concerned are you? And this team needs quarterback. And they said, it's not as big a concern when you look at the fact that a lot of quarterback coaches can coach that out of a player, and they can get them to trust in it when you have better offensive line talent than USC had, and frankly, better separators at wide receiver. So I don't think teams are real worried about it, but it does show up a lot on tape. But Pat Mahomes did that at Texas Tech and has, as you mentioned, he's kind of limited when he goes off schedule and when he stays on schedule.
I heard somebody the other day say they don't have Harrison as the number 1. I think it's crazy. I think he falls into that Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson. He just looks different. I think Jamar Chase felt like that. It's like, oh, I'm watching a pro. He's just playing on Saturdays. Is there a gap between those receivers? What are you hearing?
I don't think there is, and I'm hearing there's not as much. It's, so I have Malik Neighbors as my number 1 player in the draft, and literally, like just a fraction behind him is Marvin Harrison Jr. And look, you're right. Marvin Harrison Jr. is more polished. There's nothing wrong with Marvin Harrison Jr. I basically have he and Malik Neighbors as clear-cut the 1 and 2 players in this draft, and you can substitute them either way. But I think the one difference is going to be Neighbors has just ridiculous separation talent, ridiculous 3-level ability, has good size, and can make great contested catches. Marvin Harrison, you could say the same thing about him, and I think he's a better route runner. But I think from an explosion standpoint, maybe Neighbors projects a little bit higher. But I don't really get caught up in 1 versus 2 when you're talking about such high grades on two players. And Odunze, to me, is just a level below that, and yet better than, many of the offensive linemen in this draft. I mean, to me, Rome Odunze checks in at like the 5th best player in this draft, and then Jaden Daniels would be 6th. So it's a special draft for wide receivers in the top 3. And then it turns into a depth run in the 2nd and 3rd round, in my opinion.
So we've had great players, Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, who have dropped in the draft. A lot of guys get overdrafted. It's rare when a great talent gets underdrafted. Marino, there was some off-field stuff that didn't turn out, I don't think, to be true. Aaron, I don't know what it was. Somebody saw something they didn't like. I look at Drake May. And I watched him about 3 times, and I got a different version every time. I don't think they ran an incredibly sophisticated system. It feels like Justin Herbert, where he could actually, in the NFL, if he got like Cliff Kingsbury and those receivers in Washington, he may pop. Or he may not. If I said there's going to be a guy, and Lance, you're so good at this, a guy that drops out of the lottery, drops out of the top 10, 12, is there a guy to you that I worry about?
So last year, that was Will Levis. This year, it would be Drake May. I've got a boom bust grade on a 6.5 on my scouting reports on our grades. And it's because of the things you mentioned, Colin. And I know you watch these guys and usually are pretty educated on the quarterback stuff. It's exactly what you're saying. I mean, the traits and the talent are unmistakable. They're high end. The consistency, he has great energy on the field, but sometimes it turns chaotic. And he hasn't really learned to harness it. He throws it 150 miles an hour on short throws. Like touch, ball placement on intermediate throws, the things that I want to see from an NFL quarterback, it's not always there. So the boom stuff is all with the physical elements, like with Josh Allen that we saw. But the bust is, can he put a little more whoa into it? You'd much rather say whoa than go with the quarterback. And he is a guy you may need to rein in a little bit and become a little bit more of a finesse passer, at least add a little bit of finesse to his game. But the talent is unmistakable. But I just wonder if a team – think about this for a second. Cliff Kingsbury, I was thinking about this. He had Johnny Manziel. Johnny's best year was at Texas A&M with Cliff Kingsbury. Then in the NFL, he goes and handpicks another dual-threat quarterback in Kyler Murray. I kind of wonder if Cliff has figured out that you need to have a quarterback who can run and pass. And if that's the case, then Jaden Daniels will be the second pick.
So I remember last year I went because I follow you religiously. Your C.J. Stroud grade, I thought it was a great comp. You said C.J. Stroud is Jared Goff, and my take was, well, I love Jared Goff, so that's a good player. And then I saw him against Georgia. I saw C.J. Stroud run, and I was like, well, okay, that's a little. If he's Jared Goff with mobility, but I didn't see a ton of juice. Because Ohio State's got such gifted athletes everywhere, it's like, is it going to be another, Buckeye quarterback? And then it was more the players and the coach. And then I watched him, and by the second week this year, I was like, wow. Were you do a show in Houston? You said he was Goff. Were you shocked, or is this kind of what you saw just sooner than you thought you'd see it?
So I had a lot of people reach out to me when you talked about this previously, and I think people sometimes mistake what my comps are meant to be. They're not meant to be who you're going to be, like what your ultimate landing spot is. It really was Goff based on the fact, and I'll tell you exactly what it was. I start with size, and they have similar size. That's the first thing I start with. But the other thing was, a lot of people don't realize Goff was terrifically accurate.
Yes.
And he threw people open.
Yep.
And he wasn't a big scrambling guy. And so for me, I said from the very beginning, this is absolutely an elite accuracy quarterback who throws players open. So from the way he played, other than the Georgia game, I thought it was Goff. And to this day, I still think there's some elements.
Yeah.
It was not meant to be the landing spot, like he'll never be better than Goff. I think the way it was really a compliment based on this guy knows how to throw the football and has a great feel. Now, you're right. The Georgia game was phenomenal last year. That was high-end stuff. And the regular season was good, like you talked about. Michael Penix is that guy this year who had a game against Texas that was the best game that I saw a quarterback play this year. And yet, I don't know that that's who he's going to be. Like, I've got him with a second-round grade. I know the injuries are a concern, but boy, when you flash against really talented teams, like you got to pay attention to that stuff because look what happened with C.J. Stroud.
Oh, and also Justin Herbert against one of the better Wisconsin defenses in a decade. And you're like, I had two GMs that were at the game. They're like, they completely thought differently about Justin Herbert on the field against Wisconsin. So let's go to Penix. So I made this argument. Lance Zierlein joining us for our radio audience. He's been doing this for years. He's a draft analyst, NFL.com. He's sensational, also a very talented radio guy in Houston. So I watched Penix play live. And somebody said this to me, and I think I stole it. I said, he's a bigger Tua. But my take is, let's say he comes in with injury history, and he gets hurt year 4. Lance, what I don't want to be in the NFL is chaotic at quarterback. If I get four good Tua years out of him, Tua's going to sign a huge deal. I don't know if he's going to be able to get through it physically. I mean, isn't Penix talented enough that if you're a team needing a quarterback, so what if he lasts 3.5 years? He gets you out of the dungeon, doesn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, Colin, this is the thing. When you draft quarterback, and you think you got it right, you want it to last forever. And the problem with Michael Penix is 4 consecutive years of season-ending injuries. Now, he's been healthy at Washington. He was limping off the last game. I mean, he got crushed and he's a tough guy, but he got crushed by Michigan. And I think the concern you have with that injury history is 25-year-old rookie coming into the league. He's got 4 season-ending injuries during his 6-year career. Yeah, you have to ask some questions about how healthy is he going to be during the season. And what you don't want to do is get through first contract and then have a tough decision to make on second contract based on how much they're spending now if you don't really believe in him and believe that he's going to be available. I think that's what Miami's dealing with right now. Is Tua going to be available all the time? Because the money they're getting ready to pay is extensive, and it has a big impact on how you build out the rest of your roster. So I think that's the number one thing that bothers me about Penix. And he's not a great passer of the football outside of the pocket. The numbers, the metrics are really low. I looked at all the throws. And the NFL, if they know you can't throw off platform and you can't scramble and throw with accuracy, they will heat you up in the A-gaps all day long. So you've got to be able to limit your tendencies and limit your glaring weaknesses, or defensive coordinators will exploit it.
Listen, Green Bay does quarterbacks right, and they sit them and they give them good offensive line and weapons. And I had a source, somebody in the league who's still a GM in the league, didn't like Jordan Love at all. He thought he was wild and out of control, whatever. Yeah. He looked pretty good like week 5 or week 6 through week 18. What was your grade on him? Do you remember?
Yeah, I had a second-round grade on him. And for the reasons you talked about, he had a really good junior season. His last season, he lost a running back, 2 wide receivers, a head coach, and an offensive coordinator. And the next year, he just wasn't as good. Like, it was hard to get behind the tape his senior season. I think there were some maturity issues as well that I heard about. So, yeah, I do remember my grade. It was like a 63, which is a second-round grade. And the reason's simple. He just didn't follow up his junior year with a strong senior year. And when that's your final year of college football, I mean, it's harder to project the first rounder there. And look, it took a while for him to pop, but just like Aaron Rodgers, isn't it amazing the trajectory of Rodgers to Favre and Love to Rodgers? It's amazing how many similarities there are. Yeah, well, it's a very smart franchise who, they've had their issues defensively, but they get offense right. They get O-lines right. They always have a back. Big time.
Yep, and they always hire offensive coaches. I have so much respect for them. And you, Lance Zierlein, well. Great seeing you, my man. I'll be following you on NFL.com. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.